All right, so get this. Today we're gonna look into something uh pretty incredible.
Okay.
The Mahakumbh Mela.
Oh, wow.
And not just any Kumbh Mela.
Ah,
We're talking the one that happens, you ready for this?
yeah.
Once every 144 years.
Wow, that really puts things in perspective, right? It's not like just a yearly festival or something. It's something that most people, I think, only just hear about, not something they'll ever actually get to experience.
Exactly. Most people just hear about it. We're going to try to experience it, at least virtually, through an article that we got. It's called Mahakumbh After 144 Years, a phenomenal confluence of divinity and humanity.
Oh, wow.
The title alone is pretty wild.
Yeah, I mean, just reading that title, it makes me want to book a flight and just go check this out.
Yeah. But hold on a second. Let's not get too swept up in what this actually looks like, right? All the people and the rituals and everything. Let's first pack where this whole idea comes from. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it can't just be a random date that everyone decided to show up.
Gosh.
There's got to be a story behind it.
There is a story, very old story. It goes back to Hindu mythology.
Okay.
And there's this story called the Samudra Manthan, the churning of the ocean of milk. It's this, imagine this cosmic battle, right? Between gods and demons. And they're all fighting for Amrit, which is the nectar of immortality.
Okay, so we're already more dramatic than my Tuesday morning, for sure. But how does this mythical battle connect to a real-world festival?
Well, so during this fight, during this tug of war, drops of this Amrit, it spilled onto Earth, and it landed in 4 specific places: Prayagraj, Hardwar, Ujjain, and Nashik. And these places became sacred, and they're believed to have this special energy.
Ah, so that's where the Kumbh Mela comes in, right?
Yeah.
It's like a commemoration of this really important event.
Right.
But we're talking about the Mahakumbh,
Right.
the once every 144 years one at Prayagraj.
Does that make it even more significant? How does that work?
Yeah, it does. It does. You see, it's not just about remembering a story. It's about tapping into a very specific cosmic energy. And the Mahakumbh, it's time to coincide with a rare alignment of Jupiter, the Sun, and the Moon.
Hold on. So we're talking planetary alignments are affecting spiritual energy.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty wild. It reminds me of those like astrology memes, Mercury's in retrograde.
Yeah.
Except this is like the ultimate cosmic power up.
Right.
Yeah.
So I got to ask, what exactly is this amplified potential? Like, what are people hoping to gain from all this?
Well, at the heart of it, it's all about purification and the pursuit of moksha.
Moksha,
which is liberation from this cycle of birth and death, right?
Okay, so this is heavy stuff, but I mean, it's starting to make sense to me why this draws in millions of people.
Yeah.
It's not just about the spectacle; it's about connecting to something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. This could be the largest peaceful gathering in human history. Millions of people, right?
Yeah.
Think about it. All these people coming to one place, pilgrims looking for spiritual fulfillment,
Mm-hmm.
Saints, ascetics, all these different sects offering guidance, even just tourists,
Mm-hmm.
right? Researchers, people who are just drawn in by the scale of it all.
It's pretty overwhelming just thinking about the logistics of it all.
Yeah.
But before we get into the nuts and bolts of how this all comes together, can we go back to this idea of moksha for a second?
Sure.
It's a concept that I think deserves a little bit more than just a quick definition.
Yeah. It's not just escaping reincarnation. It's about reaching enlightenment, realizing your true nature, and ultimately uniting with the divine.
So it's not just like going to heaven or avoiding hell. It's a fundamental change in consciousness.
Yeah, you could say that. And the beauty of Hinduism is that there are so many paths, right, to reach this moksha.
Okay.
Some people emphasize devotion, others focus on meditation or selfless action.
Mm-hmm.
And the Mahakumbh, it provides a space for all these different paths to come together, to intersect.
That's incredible. And it really, I mean, it speaks to how inclusive this event is, right? It's
Yeah.
not about one specific dogma. It's about everyone coming together and pursuing something greater.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still stuck on this image of millions of people, coming together.
Yeah.
What does this actually look like on the ground? What are the key things, the key rituals that happen during this Mahakumbh?
Well, the central event, I mean, the one that everyone knows about, everyone's looking forward to, is the Shahi Snan, which is the royal bath.
Okay, a royal bath. Sounds fancy.
It is pretty amazing. Just picture this, right? Millions of people immersing themselves in these sacred rivers, specifically at the confluence of the Ganga, Yamuna, and the mythical Saraswati River.
Wow. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's not just a bath, right? This is something, a symbolic act of cleansing.
Exactly, yeah. It's believed that this washes away sins, you know. It purifies your soul and it brings you closer to that moksha that we were talking about. But it's also about so much more than just you, right? It's about everyone's energy, the energy of millions of people all coming together in this act of faith, this act of devotion.
Yeah, I can see how that would be an incredibly powerful experience.
It is.
But it's not just about the pilgrims, right? The article mentions these groups called akhadas, and they seem to play a pretty big role.
Yeah, they do.
What are they all about?
So the akhadas they're like these monastic orders. Essentially, they're groups of Hindu ascetics, and they bring a whole other element to the Mahakumb. Imagine these processions, led by the akhadas, with all this music and chanting and really vibrant displays of devotion.
It sounds like something out of a movie.
It's pretty incredible.
But again, it can't just be about the spectacle, right? What's the deeper meaning of why the akhadas are there?
Well, they represent all these different spiritual and ascetic traditions, all within Hinduism. And each akhada, each one has its own lineage, you know, its own practices, its own philosophies, and being present at the Kumbh Mela, it allows them to share their wisdom, to connect with more people.
So it's like a living exhibition of all these different paths within Hinduism.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it,
Yeah.
and it shows just how rich and how complex this tradition really is.
I mean, we've got mythology, we've got planetary alignments, we've got moksha, we've got the royal bath, we've got these akhadas. I'm starting to get why they call this a phenomenal confluence.
Yeah.
And we've barely scratched the surface here. There's so much more to this, right? We've got puja, we've got yajna. We haven't even gotten into the teachings, what the spiritual leaders are offering, all this other stuff.
Yeah.
We got to pace ourselves.
Yeah, you do.
So we're going to dive into these other rituals and practices after a quick break. So stick around, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back to continue this deep dive into the Mahakumbh Mela.
Okay, so we're back and ready to get back into the Mahakumbh Mela.
Yeah.
You know, it strikes me that, you know, with all this talk about, you know, planetary alignment, these rituals, we might miss the human part of this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's easy to get caught up in the wow factor of it all, but really the Mahakumbh Mela, it's a really personal journey for everyone who goes there.
So beyond all the crowds and all the rituals and stuff, what's it actually like to be there? Just imagine stepping away from all the noise, all the distractions of everyday life, and you're just immersed in this space that's dedicated to spirituality.
It almost sounds like a pilgrimage, and not just physically going to a place, but for the soul.
You're right. You're getting at something really important there.
Yeah.
The Mahakumbh Mela, it's more than just a festival. It's a chance to disconnect from everything going on around you and to reconnect with yourself.
I can see how that would be a really powerful thing, especially in our world, you know?
Right.
Everyone's always connected, always online.
Right.
It's almost like hitting the reset button on your soul.
Yeah, and it's not just about that personal introspection either. You're surrounded by millions of people, and they're all looking for the same thing, that same connection, and it creates a sense of community that you don't really get anywhere else.
So it's like tapping into this collective energy, this shared wanting for something more, something beyond the material world.
Exactly, yeah. It reminds us that we may have our differences, but we're all part of something bigger.
You know, I've always been interested in this idea of like a collective consciousness, how the energy of a group can be more than just the people in it, you know?
Yeah.
And this seems like the perfect example of that.
It really does. It's a powerful reminder that we're not just individuals, you know?
Yeah.
We're connected to each other. We all share in this human experience.
And that's a message that I think a lot of people need to hear, you know, especially now the world feels so divided.
Right.
But let's get back to what it's actually like to be there.
Sure.
The article also mentions other rituals besides the Shahi Snan. Things like puja and yajna.
Right. These are These are like more formal ways of worship. Puja is about, showing reverence to a deity, often through prayers, hymns, sometimes offerings. Yajna, on the other hand, involves rituals with fire,
Okay.
offerings that are made to ask for the blessings of the gods.
It sounds pretty intricate. What's the thinking behind all these rituals? What are they supposed to do?
It's not just, going through the motions. They're very symbolic. They're meant to deepen your connection with the divine. Puja, for example, it's about being devoted, showing gratitude. And yajna, it's often seen as a way to cleanse the world around you and restore balance.
So it's not just about you, it's about doing good for everyone, for the universe.
Exactly. And it's amazing to see these rituals, something so old, still being done today with so much passion, so much devotion, even in, the 21st century.
We keep talking about moksha as this ultimate goal, but how do these rituals help people reach that?
Well, the rituals themselves, they're not the goal, right? They're more like tools to help you along the way. Yeah. They help you focus your mind, They help you develop certain qualities. And ultimately they help you purify your soul.
So it's about understanding what you're doing.
Yeah.
And why you're doing it.
Exactly, yeah. Bringing intention to it. Being present in every step you take. And that's something that applies to, everyday life too, not just at the Camilla.
It really makes you think about your own, spiritual practices, or even just how you live your life. How can you be more intentional? How can you be more aware of what you're doing?
Right.
But we haven't even talked about the teachings, what people are learning at the Mahakumb.
Oh yeah, you're right. Besides all the rituals, there's this tradition of learning, of sharing knowledge. There are all these saints, these spiritual leaders, and they give these talks, these lectures about all sorts of things, ancient scriptures, philosophy, practical advice on how to live a better life.
So it's like a giant spiritual conference.
Yeah, you could say that. It's your chance to learn from people who've really dedicated themselves to spiritual growth. Yeah. And to get some new perspectives on those big questions that we all have, the meaning of life, what is reality, how do we find liberation, all that stuff.
I can only imagine how powerful those teachings must be.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in a place like that.
Yeah, and what's really cool is that, it's not just one way of thinking.
Okay.
The Mahakumb gives a platform to all these different voices, all these different perspectives. It really shows the full picture of what Hindu spirituality is.
And it goes back to what we were saying before, right? About how there's no one right way to be spiritual. What works for one person might not work for another.
Right. It's about figuring out what works for you, what speaks to you, what resonates with you, and just being open to new ideas.
And I can't think of a better place to do that than the Mahakumb.
Yeah. I mean, you're surrounded by so much spiritual diversity. The energy there must be incredible.
It's like a chance to get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
To challenge the way you think about things. Maybe even find a new path for yourself. It's starting to feel like the Mahakumbh Mela is more than just a pilgrimage. It's like a microcosm of what it means to be human,
That's a good way to put it. It really gets to the heart of what makes this event so special. We're all on a journey, right? And the Mahakumb, it just shows us all the different paths we can take and the potential that we all have inside of us.
I really want to see this for myself now. I want to feel that energy, see the rituals. But, I mean, something this big, it's got to have its problems.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, as amazing as it is, the Mahakumb Mela is, it's still part of the real world with all its complexities.
So let's talk about some of the challenges. What are some of the biggest things they have to deal with when they're putting this all together?
Well, managing the crowds is a huge one. We're talking about millions of people all coming to this one place.
Yeah.
Logistically, it's a nightmare. Just making sure everyone's safe, that everyone's okay. It's a huge task.
I mean, we talked about the security measures earlier, but I imagine that's still a big worry, especially during something like the Shahi Snan.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, you've got all these people together in one place.
Right.
And there have been times when things have gone wrong, stampedes, accidents, really tragic stuff.
It's awful to hear that.
Yeah.
But aside from safety, what other challenges do they have?
Well, another thing that people bring up is commercialization.
Commercialization, what do you mean?
Well, as this event has become more and more popular, there are a lot of people who want to make money off of it. Businesses, vendors, all that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's supply and demand, right?
Right.
But what's wrong with that?
Some people worry that all that stuff takes away from what the event is really about.
Okay.
It becomes more about money, less about spirituality.
So it's like trying to keep it sacred, but also, you need to pay for everything.
Exactly, yeah. It's about finding that balance. On the one hand, you need the resources to make it all happen. But on the other hand, you don't want it to turn into some big market. That takes away from the spiritual meaning.
That's a tough one. I mean, a lot of events, religious events, cultural events, they struggle with this. How do you stay true to tradition, but also, deal with the way the world is today?
Right.
And what about the environmental impact?
Oh, yeah, that's another important one.
With so many people, it can't be easy to keep things sustainable.
No, it's not. I mean, they are trying, right? They're cleaning the rivers. They're encouraging people to be more eco-friendly. But at the end of the day, when you have millions of people in one place, it's going to have an impact. There's waste management, water consumption, all the temporary structures they have to build.
Right.
It all affects the environment.
It's a complicated issue, but it's good that they're at least aware of it, and they're trying to do something about it.
Yeah.
It shows that even these really old traditions, they have to be careful about how they affect the planet.
Yeah, for sure. It makes you think about how we can balance our spiritual goals with our responsibility to protect the environment.
It's a lot to think about. We've talked about so much: the mythology, the rituals, the challenges, all the problems that come with something like this. But I think we need to take a break. Give ourselves a minute to process everything, and then we'll come back and share some final thoughts.
Okay, so we're back and ready to kind of wrap up our look at the Mahakumb Ai.
I gotta say, even with, everything, all the issues, all the problems we talked about, there's still something about this whole thing that just gets to me,
Yeah, it's true. It's easy to get caught up in how big it is, and all this stuff that happens. But what I keep coming back to is the people. It's about wanting to connect. Wanting to find something more, something beyond our normal lives.
Right. I mean, we started by talking about this crazy planetary alignment, this once in a lifetime thing, right? That makes the Mahakumb happen, and it almost felt like something out of a storybook.
Yeah, and it is in a way. I mean, we went through the whole myth, the Samudra Manthan, the churning of the ocean of milk, and how that fight for immortality. That's how we ended up with these sacred places where they have the Kumbh Ai.
And it's amazing, right, that something that old, a story, a myth that old, still means something to people today. But the thing is, it's not just about holding on to the past, right? It's about moving forward, about adapting.
Yeah, and they're doing that. I mean, we talked about the technology they're using for crowd control, for sustainability, even like apps to help the pilgrims get around.
Yeah, it's wild. It's like they're taking these ancient traditions and bringing them into the modern world. It shows that spirituality doesn't have to, fight with progress. It can actually, lead to new things.
Yeah, it makes you think, what if we did that in other areas of our lives too? What if we were more open to change, more open to new ideas, but still held on to the things that are important to us?
It's a good question. It's like there's a lot we can learn from this whole Mahakumb Ai thing. Not just about spirituality, but about how to live in this world, the world we live in today.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes us think about how tradition and progress can work together.
Yeah.
About individual and community, about how we balance our material needs with our spiritual needs.
So, I mean, after this whole deep dive, what do you take away from it? What are you going to be thinking about, when we're done here?
For me, I think it's the power of human connection. Even with all the problems, all the things that make it difficult, the Mahakumb Ai, it still brings millions of people together.
Yeah.
From all over the world, from all different backgrounds. And it shows that we all want the same thing, really. We want to belong. We want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. And it makes me wonder, in a world that feels so divided so often, what what can we do? How can we create that feeling, that connection in our own lives, in our own communities?
That's a question we should all be asking ourselves. And I think, the Mahakumila, it gives us an answer in a way. It shows us that shared rituals, shared beliefs, shared hopes, they can bring people together even when things are tough.
Yeah. Maybe it's a reminder that even now, even in all the craziness of the 21st century, people still want something more. Something something meaningful, something real, and maybe just maybe that's what can make things better.
I hope so. To everyone listening, we hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the Mahakumila, and maybe you've learned something new.
Yeah, and maybe it's inspired you to look for those moments of connection, those moments of thinking and wonder,
Hmm.
whether that's through learning about different cultures or talking to people or just taking a moment to see the beauty in the world around you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming along with us on this journey, and until next time, keep on diving deep.